Hello there, and welcome to the Impact Zone podcast. And we're back to talk more TNA wrestling shenanigans yet again. Don't forget to subscribe because it's one of those things I tend to forget to say in these videos. But it's one of those things that I should say to people as a reminder to subscribe to the channel, because that way the channel will be recommended to you and to more people out there in the wrestling world, and we can help bring the content to more people. But anyway, in this episode, I want to talk about the WWE and TNA relationship. And I already talked a bit about this a little bit ago with the whole Joe Hendry in the Royal Rumble situation, and where I thought, or where I feel like the relationship is at, and where I think it will ultimately be, which I felt was mostly negative, or not negative, but not in the level at which fans perhaps will expect it to be. I feel like fans expect, all this crazy things to happen, and like some of that was me being a bit negative, so I don't want to be too negative. I want to bring myself to the point of, and bring everyone else to the point of realizing how important this relationship is, and that, because it is one of those things that it is a very important relationship. And the thing is, the wrestling world owes no one nothing. WWE doesn't owe TNA anything. TNA has been its own entity forever, and well, for 20 years, 22 years, whatever it's been, 23 years now. But yeah, they have been around all this time, and WWE has never really given them anything. This is the first time, like, that they're really actually giving them something in terms of a relationship, in terms of cross promotion, etc., whatnot. So, and realistically, again, TNA should be able to do all the things that it should be able to do by itself, but then again, they need to not just loosen the purse strings, because like loosening the purse strings and saying buy whatever you want or buy whatever contract you need or whatever it is isn't just the best thing to do. Look at AEW. They have literally billions of people on their payroll, that all of them are getting paid millions and billions of dollars, I think. I don't know, but whatever. Again, there's so many people that are on that roster right now, and it just is like, well, guys, come on. Like, calm the farm. You cannot have all these people on $1 million salaries, or whatever it is. I don't know. But again, like, that is not where TNA is at. And I know that people will say, well, TNA is much smaller and whatnot and all of that, and it is right now, and it is a much thinner roster and whatnot right now. But again, that's not the purpose of this video. We're not really diving into that. We're diving into this relationship, and we have to be grateful and thankful for the relationship, even though, to my opinion and to many people's opinions, it isn't where we all kind of want it to be, because again, it is just so far between WWE NXT, the third brand, and again, we're going to say that it's the third brand. We're not actually going to label it as the developmental territory of WWE. We're going to give it some props for being the third brand, but it is the third brand. So it is behind Raw and SmackDown. It's probably above whatever other shows they've got, like Speed or whatever else shows they've got. I don't even know what other shows they've got now. They used to have Heat, and what else did they used to have? They used to have something else. Velocity. That was it. But yeah, like, they actually, Velocity is a pretty good show name, actually, but like, and a few other show names are pretty good, but still, like, it's one of those things of, these shows. We've got to, be grateful for what we get, because in the end of the day, we are getting a fair bit of stuff from the WWE. I think the WWE, though, is again getting way more out of the deal than what TNA is getting, and maybe, hopefully, some way down the track, they will actually say, okay, we've been taking and taking and taking and taking. all your best stuff that, you can throw at us and whatnot. And some of your guys have even, pushed to do some stuff over here. And even some people over here have said, hey, can I get in on this? We know Bailey has said this. We know a few other people have said, hey, can I get in on the TNA thing? I know a few people, and we've talked about this before. We talked about Becky Lynch perhaps being in TNA. It might be a thing now. Like, we don't know. Like, could it be a thing now? Like, who knows? Because, like, if they could say, hey, do you want to work a lighter schedule? And hey, let's put you over here and let's do something with you over here. Hey, why not? So I don't want to sound ungrateful for anything that WWE gives us. But I think fan expectations have not been met. That is the starting point that I want to come here with. And from my perspective, as I was sort of saying, the past indication so far has been this is what the relationship is going to be. Now maybe it's on simmer, and maybe they're, as I sort of said, are going to turn it up to boil or whatever. They're going to put on the heat or whatever at some point in the future. But right now it does feel like, hey, you need to get them rocket boots out with some of this, because you haven't really done that, and it's sort of too slow of a process, and people are hoping for more. So and it's sort of hard, I guess, because they're all like, again, it's like, well, we've got to figure out what we're actually doing for our own shows, let alone figuring out what we're going to do for the TNA shows, or whatever it is. But then again, they don't really need to figure out what's happening with the TNA shows. They just need to figure out, hey, are we using this person or are we not using this person? Hey, if we're not using this person, and like, it's just like indie dates, whatever it is. If you say, hey, we're not using you for a few weeks or a few months, or we haven't got anything planned for you for right now, or we do, but what we actually want to do is do this thing with TNA as well, so we get two things going at the same time, perhaps, I don't know. But again, that's sort of happening with Cora Jade. But yeah, like, we don't have plans for you. You can take some indie dates if you want to. You can go to TNA if you want to. You can go to Ring of Honor. Oh, well, not Ring of Honor, but you can go to New Japan. You can go on the indies if you want to. You can go and do what you want to. You're contracted. Us, we'll let you know, hey, when we need you and whatever else. That is how, in my opinion, it should realistically work. You work for us for a number of set days or whatever it is, but if we say, hey, we actually don't need you for house shows even, or for anything else, well, hey, how about you go and do some indie stuff, or go do some TNA stuff? And it is very hard, because again, it's like, they need their jobbers. I understand this is something we talked about as well. They need their jobbers to the stars. They need their jobbers to other people, because that's how you get a roster full of, Roman Reigns and whatever else is because you have all these other people that actually helped them, get to the point of being, they're the top guy. Not just themselves, but that legitimacy was built into them by having beaten all these other people along the way, and now it's like, yeah, now you've got to think about the other way down. But again, like, you're starting to look and say, hey, now we've got, like I said this before, WWE has so many wrestlers and so many stars that they should be able to, like, do anything that they want, really. Like, maybe their NXT brand is a bit thin right now, like we've talked about that. But, like, on their Raw and SmackDown shows, their shows are stacked, like, absolutely stacked. But again, it's like, if they can't make superstars for the next 5 to 10 years with the superstars that they've got, or for the wrestlers that they've got that are yet to become superstars, then it's like, you guys aren't trying, because you've got so many people there that could be, top stars. You could literally make anyone a top star if you really put the time and effort and energy into it. and whatnot, and that sort of thing. So yeah, I think, they don't need to hire anyone. They don't need to have Mercedes Moné. Maybe if they say, hey, we'll bring Sasha back, and we'll do something big with her, and when she wants to do something, absolutely, I'm sure that would be some big business, absolutely, or whatever else it is. They can obviously pick up more people here and there, but it's like, where are these people gonna fit? It's not just saying, oh, let's bring in this person and let's do something. Same with TNA. It's like, if you're bringing in people crossing over from WWE and TNA, it's like, okay, well, what are we going to actually do with them? Just bringing them in to do something is like, well, that would be cool to bring in Joe Hendry or whatever it is. It would be cool to do this, or it would be cool to do that. But it's like, well, what are we actually going to do with them? Like, more than just saying, let's bring them in for shits and giggles. So yeah, I guess what I'm trying to, push along this narrative or this discussion is that, yes, this is another thing. We've got to be critical about things. And I've talked about the ability to be critical, but we've got to be constructively critical. I'm not trying to, be too negative about the relationship. I'm just stating what I think thus far, and it sort of seems like they're, again, perhaps baby steps is the way that it starts out. I understand that, but again, from my perspective, if you're gonna, and perhaps this is because it's just the first year of official, or first few months really, of officially signing and saying, hey, this is on paper and this is going to be a multi-year thing. But again, it kind of feels like, well, are we actually doing stuff with TNA? Or whatever? Is WWE really doing stuff with TNA? Or are they just, again, we talk about this before. It's sort of like, WWE is always going to be there, and WWE is always going to be a big option for a lot of wrestlers when they're done big things in TNA. Look at Lashley, look at Drew Galloway, look at a lot of people that have come through TNA and then gone to WWE and done stuff after that. It's like, yeah, LA Knight, he should be in a bigger position than what he is. But again, he's still doing some big stuff, and he came through the doors of TNA. Realistically, again, but it's one of those things. It does feel like WWE is just not real. Maybe they're just sort of halfway paying TNA back for saying, oh, well, we're going to steal most of your talent that you've got, or most of your major talent, or we've stolen most of your major talent. Hey, have some free promotion. And by the way, you can help us, get some more of your talent over here, get some exposure or whatever else, because we'll probably get them as well later on down the track anyway. Like Joe Hendry or whatever, Jordan Grace or whatever. It was like they were doing that to be like, hey, well, we probably know we're going to get them soon at some point or other, or at least we're going to show them, hey, look how good it is over here. And then they're going to be like, oh, okay, well, maybe I will come to WWE, but, they're trying to do that. They're trying to showcase, how things will be for them in WWE, and open a door in some ways to some of these people and saying, hey, come over here and do something with us and whatnot. But yeah, I don't know, dude. It is a very weird situation in some ways, and it is a very, unknown situation, because, this has never really happened before. Never really happened before, dude. And, we've had partnerships before. We have the New Japan and AEW relationship. We had the TNA and AEW relationship. We've had the TNA and New Japan relationship. perhaps you can draw similarities, but you can draw similarities back to the old days as well, like back in the NWA days and whatnot. Like it was funny to see some of this stuff happening when the NWA was kind of dissolving, and then they were suddenly trying to, have all these promotions that were like breaking away, and then they're suddenly going to go like, what was it? It was not triple A, AWA, which had been apart from the system for a fair while, finally rejoining some of the other guys to be like, yeah, we've really just got to fight Vince. Like we've really got to fight Vince off, and we really need everyone's help to fight Vince off and whatnot, because this is our last, scourge, or last, hurrah or whatever. And that's the thing, like, again, like, people underestimate how cutthroat WWE had been in the past with like wrestling and trying to assassinate any competition. WCW was the only real competition that they had for a long time, and they were still trying to undermine them by saying, hey, they should defund these guys and blah, 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 and they should do everything bad to these guys, but not to us. No, because, we're WWE, and we're all nice and innocent, or whatever else it is, and blah, 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 but they're assholes and whatever else, Like, then turn around when Hulk Hogan or whoever else it was that was over there, when they were saying, oh, these guys are all assholes. Oh, but you'll come back to work for us now that other place is closed. It was, whatever. And I think, like, people talk about the no competition for, like, the last 20 years for WWE. Yes, of course, there's been no competition with WWE for the last 20 years, and I still don't count AEW as being legitimate competition. If you're not even breaking, competition with the third brand of WWE, or, barely on competition with the third brand of WWE, then I feel like you're not competition. And I don't consider TNA to be competition to WWE. In some ways, it is competition. In some ways, yes. But in some ways, football is competition. In some ways, basketball, in some ways, MMA, in some cases, the Logies or whatever else, any entertainment, Rod Stewart, the Kiss, whatever it is, whoever it is, if somebody's coming into town and they're bringing, Billy Joel or whoever it is into town, and they're going to have a big concert in a big arena, then that's competition to WWE coming into the same city and having a show on the same day or on the same night. Yes, they bring in different crowds to some extent, but they also bring in the same sort of crowd. People who have extra money or whatever else and want a good night out and be entertained. That's the thing at the end of the day that you should be coming to see, whether you like wrestling or you don't like wrestling or whatever else it is, or don't understand wrestling or whatever it is. But again, if you're wanting to, you're in the city or you're near the city or whatever else it is, or you're even making the pilgrimage or whatever it is, and you're saying, okay, we're going to go and see WrestleMania or whatever it is, we're going to go and see Bound for Glory or whatever it is, that's what you're paying to see. You should be, saying, right, this is what we're paying to see. We're paying to see this entertainment. We're paying to see a night of entertainment. Especially for a lot of people. A lot of people, like me, are die-hard fans. We're here every single week of every single month of every single year. We don't miss out on basically anything. Like, we're watching everything to, not just because this is part of our jobs or whatever else it is, but because we have that passion, because we have that love for this. And that is where we are at, But, there's people that are much more casual. They only turn in for the major pay-per-views or even the pay-per-views. They don't really watch every single week, or maybe they watch the clips or whatever else it is, or the highlight reel or whatever else it is, or they, read the spoilers or they read the results or whatever else it is, and that's kind of it. They keep a tab on it, or if there's major news, they kind of go, oh, okay, that sounds cool, or whatever else, or whatnot, and that sort of thing. And that is good. Like, I think, we're coming up to the Full Sail event. And that is going to be maybe pivotal. That could change things, and that's why I want to be more positive. And that's why I think we need to sort of start going. We have to start, not just demanding, but sort of saying, come on, please give us something more. Please, give us something more. Not just, complaining, say, this is bad, or this isn't good, or this isn't, where we want it to be. Saying, we'd like a bit more from that. Hey, come on. When are you gonna, rip the Band-Aid off, so to speak, or whatever? Not just being so tentative to put your toes in the water or see how hot or how cold this sort of thing is. Let's friggin' throw the balls to the wall and let's see what friggin' happens. I don't know. I don't know whether I want to see John Cena in TNA. I don't know. But would it be huge? Probably, dude. It would probably be huge if John Cena turned up into TNA, especially on a live episode. It would be insane. People would be saying, what the heck, John Cena has crossed the line. It would be big news. It would be insane. So again, thinking to say, let's do something big like that, or whatever, is something that I think that they need to do, and we need to be saying, this is the sort of thing that we want. You don't have to give us exactly this. No, but come on, stop just giving us these little things that, don't really move the needle, so to speak. They're not really doing anything for anyone. They're not really doing anything for you guys, because you're already, as big as what you can be. It's only helping your small, younger talent sort of get exposure or get some time out there or get some legitimacy or whatever else it is in that ring. It's not really helping, the TNA talent, especially the more marquee talent, because they're already over as, what they can be, and that is on their own back or on the company's own back for the most part. Whereas if you start saying, let's, really send TNA a bone because, hey, why not? Or let's see what we can do, or let's see if we can make some serious waves in the wrestling industry. It's time to start doing that. It is time to start, taking some bold steps. Let's see what we can do with this relationship. Let's really see what we can do with this relationship. I know that, we know that the TNA network, Access TV, is a very small network. But if you put something major on there and then everyone knows about it, you're going to be telling your friends, tune in, especially if it's live, tune in right now because John Cena is on TNA and he is there live. Imagine that sort of thing. And thousands of people tuning in, to TNA with John Cena on it, with a live mic or something like that. Anything. Pull the trigger on something big and make something happen. Just imagine what we could do if we show people, again, hey, this show is a really good show, and there are things that people would want to watch if they just knew about it or whatever else it was, or even felt like, hey, anything can happen and whatnot. TNA just did their best views ever, suddenly out of nowhere. They tripled their audience or quadrupled their audience or whatever it was. By God, then think about it. People are going to say, whoa, well, maybe we can friggin' think about, let's figure out, we do know that audience is there. How do we keep that audience every single week? And you can't keep bringing out John Cena every single week or whatever it is. But you start saying, right, we gave those people that thing to say, holy crap, let's turn into TNA, right here, right now, and maybe some of them will stay and whatever else, So then you're starting to get these people that are going, oh man, haven't seen TNA in years or whatever it is, and going, oh, maybe I'll keep watching because, I'm interested in this guy. I'm interested in Joe Hendry. He might not be around for a long time, but I'm interested in this guy. I'm interested in that guy. The more people that you kind of expose to your product and they go, oh, I haven't watched this for however long it has been, and I've kind of, petered out on AEW or whatever it is. So why not try something else? Try to, and that's what I mean. Like, that's why I've been so, like, not just negative, but sort of whatever on this has been like, yes, you can't always do that, and perhaps it's like too early to say these sorts of things. It's still early in the relationship to an extent, but it's just like, and WrestleMania is coming around, and then like I think just after WrestleMania is Slammiversary, so it's like, like it does feel very like wow, like, and one of those things is like at that time of the year, like you've got that big WrestleCon sort of time. That's when they used to have the Multiverse United. I really wish they'd do more Multiverse United again, and or more just like proper WrestleCon sort of stuff or whatever, and that sort of thing. But yeah, just bring the fire, bring wrestling to the next level. You've got to start not just having a few things here and there. Like, are you going to, I don't know, put Triple H on there, put Shawn Michaels on there, do something, make people feel like, no, this relationship isn't just like, this is where it's at with the NXT people and TNA people, and that's it. No, we're going to bring on somebody that's from the main roster over, and then we're going to go from there. And then we're going to see like what the reaction is. I think the reaction will be pretty big and pretty good, honestly. So even if you bring over someone like LA Knight, who has been there before, it's like, okay, here we go. We've got somebody from the main roster coming over and doing something. We've got Bayley coming over and doing something. We've got Natty coming over and doing something. We've got all these people that are saying, hey, or even, maybe some of them don't want to do something, but, you've got some of these people that have a connection and saying, hey, or even so, whatever. You've still got Bayley, who we know who said, hey, I want in. That is a big, 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 big thing to say, this person over there, and she's one of the top women in that company. And we know that Becky Lynch said many years ago that she wanted to be in TNA. Again, another one where you're like, yes, bring in Bayley and bring in Becky Lynch. Bring in those two, maybe at different times or whatever it is. Have them work a few matches, or have them work a show or a program or an angle or whatever else it is. And then you've got something building to a point. Not just saying, oh, we're going to bring in, someone from NXT or whatever it is. It's expected that you're going to bring in somebody from NXT. And again, it feels like NXT is a very thin roster. You're raiding NXT for your main roster shows. And they don't have hardly anyone anymore, maybe a handful of people, but that's it. And soon, like most of those handful of people will be on your main roster. So, and then you'll be back to being like, we have a whole bunch of nobodies effectively sitting here, and maybe one or two other stars, and that's about it. Like, but the rest of the people need a lot more time and a lot more development. Whereas if you say, let's, they just actually announced that they released a whole bunch of people and whatnot. And like, we know that Indy Hartwell, she said she wants to be in TNA, and she's a free agent right now, I believe. So like, bring in some of these like releases, or say, like, I don't think WWE can have any say in it, but just send TNA a blank check. Say, hey, we're going to pay for these wrestlers to appear on your show for the next year, whatever it is, or whatever it is, same sort of thing. Send them a contracted wrestler and say, hey, we've paid for them for the next year. Give them a year of development or whatever it is, and we'll check back with you once that year's over. If we still think that they need more development, we'll give them another year. Use TNA like a developmental system, but not like WWE ID. Like, some of these people are on a WWE ID. Send some of your people that are, you have some feeling of they're a prospect and you kind of want them to do well down there, and say, okay, we're going to send you down there. We want you to develop. We want you to showcase yourself. Do whatever they say to do or whatever. Collaborate with them. And then we'll check in with you in a year or whatever it is. And then in that year, we're paying for everything, effectively. And then at the end of that, hey, if we check in and say, hey, we're not really quite happy with where you're at right yet, so we'll give you another year or whatever it is, or we might give you 6 months or whatever it is. That sort of thing. Just keep pushing this sort of agenda of saying, okay, we're going to send these people down there. We're going to send more and more people down there, or we're going to send over some of these people on a contract to say, hey, we're on your contract. We're going to let you wrestle for them, or we're going to make you wrestle for them on that brand or on that show, so that you can get your reps in, so that you can get that exposure, so you can get that training and that development and whatever else that you need over there, so that you can come back to us in a year or whatever it is, and then we'll, put you on the main roster or whatever we're going to do with you. So yeah, I think that would be a good way to do things. I don't know whether that's what they're going to do. I hope that's something about what they're going to do, because it's like, dudes, for God's sakes, type thing. Like, they had the Authors of Pain. They were one of the people recently released. I can't remember the rest of the names, but they had them there for a long time, dude. It's like, they could have been something. They could have been amazing as a tag team. And they've got a great tag team. So they could have just been another cog in that wheel, in that machine, of great tag teams that are kind of there doing stuff, But again, it's like, well, now that, again, they could go to AEW, obviously, but it's like, well, again, kind of where are you going to fit in there? Whereas with TNA, it's like, oh yeah, there's heaps of positions in that tag team division for us to kind of fit in, within that framework. And we'd fit in pretty well. We would be able to do something for a good while, and then, we'd be able to come back after a year or whatever it is. And TNA would give you, like, I talked about that TNA has proved that they can take somebody. I didn't talk about Mustafa Ali, but, I should have brought him up. He was one of the guys that was there that really, made a big splash for himself over in TNA after, being in WWE for so frigging long and really not doing a whole lot of anything and having a lackluster sense of direction about everything. Actually, I kind of almost feel like right now he's almost doing a Retribution sort of style faction, which is really weird, but it's actually done properly, in some sort of sense. Like, he's actually forming a faction. I don't know whether it's going to be like Retribution. I'm just saying it's a faction, and he was part of that faction. So it's like, oh yeah, but they're actually trying to do this properly, of, real wrestlers and real stories and real things and real situations-ish. So we're going with that. Now we're going to have something for these guys, that sort of had a relationship. Before Mustafa Ali and the Good Hands, they kind of had a relationship before, kind of fell apart because Ali left. Now he's back and he's signed and he's going to be around for a good time, or for a good long time rather, at least a year probably, if not longer. And look, again, with what TNA did with him in, like, was it 6 months? there in there. I think he was like on the Indies for like a few months or whatever it was, and I think he was like undefeated or whatever it was for like 6 months or whatever it was there at one point or whatever it was, you know, or even longer. I think maybe it was almost a full year at some point there. But yeah, like it was like ridiculous to think that he made such a big impact over there, and they gave him such a big platform and a big showcase to, you know, really do what he was going to do over there in TNA. But they saw a vision, or sort of a vision, I guess, in Mustafa Ali. They knew how good and talented he was, and, you know, perhaps it was part of the contract in some ways to actually get him to, you know, and it wasn't signing, but it was sort of a signing in some sort of sense. It was a handshake agreement or of some sort to say, hey, come in for 6 months, we'll give you a big run, we'll make a big deal out of you, then you're going to hand off the title to somebody or whatever it is. We'll make you the X Division champ, we'll give you some big stuff to do, and then you'll go away and, you know, you can decide what you're going to do next. You know, just opening that hand and saying, hey, do you want to come and work for us? We'll give you a decent contract, we'll give you a decent position, we'll give you a decent title run, and then, you know, if you want to come back and work with us after that, or after you've done some other stuff or whatever it is, hey, we'll have an offer waiting for you, you know, when you feel like, hey, I want to come back or I want to do something, you know. And they treated him well, and they put him in the right position, and they gave him a good run, and they showed, hey, we can book you well, and we can, you know, again, take you from, you know, where you were, basically almost being a jobber again, even though that, again, he'd been on the Indies and doing stuff. Yes, again, but still, you know, none of that had really translated to the really national or even the international audience. So taking him from, you know, that starting to gain some momentum, starting to look good and starting to feel good sort of stuff, and then saying, right, we're going to put you on a national stage and an international stage, and one of the biggest ones that we can. You know, that's it. That's what they do. And again, if, you know, they can keep doing these sorts of things, and they brought him back, and it looks like he's going to be part of that main event picture, at least going forward, you know, or semi-main event picture to the main event picture going forward, at least for now, is like, well, okay, right, you know, where is this going? What is going on? How is this going to form with this new WWE relationship? You know, like it's like there is all these opportunities in some ways. Like, because he was in NXT. Like, you've got a few people that are, you know, Steve Macklin, Eric Young, a bunch of people that have either been in NXT or have sort of known people to be in NXT, or been in WWE. Brian Myers, you know, like Matt Cardona, you know, like, or just WWE in general. Like, technically speaking, Joe Hendry, but realistically, this has been his first real appearance, really. We know that. Especially, like, when you think about his explosion of popularity as being a wrestler. He wasn't really a wrestler back then, I don't think. Or was he? I don't know. He was mostly a mouthpiece, I think. That's me. I don't know. But anyway, there is all these possibilities. But we have to push, and say, hey, come on, give us the golden carrots, you know, like, give us the best that you've got. Not just, let's, you know, send us another jobber that you're not really using or whatever else it is. Like, again, I don't want to demean or devalue any of these people. It's not their fault that they're on that level. Like, a lot of these people, Sol Ruka and whatnot, and Tatum Paxley, they're good wrestlers. You know, like Wendy Chu, I didn't know anything about her, but like she's a damn good wrestler as well. Like, a lot of these people that have kind of come over and done stuff are very, very good wrestlers. They just haven't really found anything for them to do, and they really haven't put that spotlight on them that they kind of need to have on them to really, kind of make that big impact and kind of have that effect. Whereas TNA bring him in, and even then it's like, okay, we can really showcase Tatum Paxi. We can really, showcase, Wendy Chu, and like even Sol Ruka got, some good stuff going there. And yes, Joe Hendry went over to NXT and did some big things over there as well. But again, like you had, what's his name? William Regal's son. I can't remember his name right now. But again, you had him coming over and doing some stuff. Got a big shine there, working with some of the top guys there, and whatnot. And you had some of those tag teams and whatnot. You had Fraxium in the main event of TNA against the Nemeth brothers. Like, they had a match there against the Rascals. Big match. Like, they had a big match in NXT. I didn't watch it or see it. But again, like, showcasing these guys, getting that, what is going on type thing here. But again, just that we need more of this. We need more of, like, the Oberfemis coming over. We need more of that sort of stuff kind of happening. We need more of these major people coming over, not just, somebody that's kind of just there and, they exist or whatever. It is nice, and I'm sure the wrestlers all kind of maybe not personally know each other, but kind of know of each other at least in some form of faction, and I'm sure they all have some like level of respect and are all sort of nice to each other and whatnot. So, but yeah, I am cautiously optimistic, but we've got to keep that, perspective or that thing going of saying, please give us golden carrots, not just, oh, here's whatever. We're not really putting energy into this relationship, or we're too tentative yet, or we're too tentative. We don't know what we're going to do. Or it's WrestleMania and we've got to put all our other plans on hold because WrestleMania. Like, okay, but come on. You can do better than that. And it's if you start saying, okay, can we bring something in for WrestleMania? Like, why not? Why not? Like, that would be crazy, and that would be history making. John Cena versus Joe Hendry at WrestleMania. Like, what the heck, bro? It's like, it's like, even if you say it's, night one's main event or something, whatever it is, I don't know. But still, it's one of those things. You go, what the heck, or whatever it is. And it is hard, again, because it's like you've got two titles and you've got two nights, and not just two titles, you've got the women's titles as well. So again, it's very tough to sort of not just split things up and say, hey, you guys are going to get this night and you guys are going to get that night, or whatever else it is. And you've got so many other things, I understand. Like, all these feuds, you've got Rey Mysterio and Penta, you've got all these other things going on, you've got the Bloodline stuff going on, and whatever else. So you've got to find space for all these people that are going to be on WrestleMania. Like, you're going to have some of this stuff happening at WrestleMania, obviously. Like, but it's like, let's do something else. I don't know whether you're going to do the whole invasion thing again, because it is like, well, that's a bit overplayed, but it does make some amount of sense. But again, people know that this is a working relationship, so it's like, well, that doesn't make any real sense, because this is a working relationship in a sense. When you have people like Wesley saying, I'm a real superstar, even though he's just sort of starting out still, he is certainly a superstar in the making, certainly. But, when you're saying this sort of stuff for heat and whatnot, that's perfectly fine. I'm perfectly fine with that. Because when you have Wes, sort of coming back with, I'm going to kick your ass like a real professional wrestler and whatever else, I'm going to, whatever. that sort of thing. That adds to it because, again, you've got those two different kind of philosophies, what WWE thinks of things kind of thing. They're all superstars, but when they're all superstars, they're basically none of them are superstars, and only a handful are real superstars, like John Cena or Roman Reigns or whoever else. They're the real superstars because they're the the top guys, and you can only have a few of those every year or whatever it is. Because again, if everyone was a top star, it'd be like, well, no one is. And again, if Hogan was the top star all the time, it'd be like, well, you're freaking old now, aren't you, old man? And it'd get old and it'd get boring and it'd get redundant and people would stop caring, and they'd want something else. They'd want something different like they already did back in like 1990 or whatever it was. And that was like only like, what was it, 2 or 3 years into Hulk Hogan being the top guy over there. Or maybe it was a bit more than that, but whatever. It was like 83. I know it was 83 that he became the champion. So it was like maybe like 7 years, or not even that, like maybe 6 or 7 years. And even then he was like losing popularity in the 80s. Like, like that's why Macho Man Randy Savage was there, and that's why Ultimate Warrior was there after that and whatnot and all of this sort of stuff, because it was like he's losing popularity. And that's why, again, like, you brought in other people like Ric Flair and whatnot, and that's why Bret got the title. And even while Hogan was there, it's like he's losing popularity and people are like turning away and they want something different. So got to start going in another direction. And just proof by that is like his title win against Yokozuna. It was like a real big flop in terms of numbers and whatnot. And then he decided, well, since it's such a big flop, well, I'm going again. And he dropped the title back to Yoko pretty much immediately after that. So even though he was meant to drop it to Bret or whatever else, but yeah, whatever. It was still a thing that, was failing and wasn't working. Because, again, people were tired of the same old shtick. And they wanted something else. Even subconsciously. Whatever. But still, we've got to have that. We've got to have that with WWE and TNA. We've got to have that, conversation, or to have that, reminder, or that thing of saying, oh, well, we kind of don't, we appreciate it to some extent, but come on. If you're really going to partner with us, don't mess around. Don't make these promises or whatever else it is. Either do it or don't, kind of thing. Like, give us some good stuff to work with, or even just a few months, saying, hey, we're going to give you somebody that's not really doing anything, but we're going to give you them for 6 months or 8 months or a year or whatever it is. That sort of thing will pay off because people will be invested long term. And I know people are fickle and whatever else, and they always go, well, I want it now. Give it to me now, kind of thing. But again, the more long term you give these guys, somebody like Cora Jade, that's the first person they've kind of, I think, given more of a build to like wrestling for the title. It's like, okay, now you're actually giving a few weeks or whatever it is to a build and to a story and to a match, rather than just like, here's a man to match. Obviously this person's going to lose because there's no build or reason for it to change hands or whatever. So even with Joe Hendry going over to NXT, it was like, yeah, people want to see Joe Hendry win that title, but it's still like he was only just there like for a few weeks or whatever it was. It was clear that he probably wasn't going to win the title, even though people were very invested in it. They just, again, didn't want to pull the trigger on something, kind of thing, because they were like, we can't have this other... And that's what I mean, again. It's going to be all these dusty finishes or whatever else, or just putting no-name nobodies against somebody that's already got a big name, and it's like, well, that really doesn't do anything for those no-name nobodies, because no one's going to remember them, coming in at random and then trying to challenge somebody who's been built up for, several years, really. Like, so, but we've got to demand that in a way. Not demand it, but like we've got to ask for it. We've got to see, hey, can we get something more than this? Come on, and you can't just like say, oh, now we've got Joe Hendry, or now we've got this person and that person that we kind of really wanted out of this relationship. So now we don't really care about, doing anything with this relationship after this, because now we've got all the superstars that we really wanted from you guys. But then again, it's like, well, at the end of the day, you're probably going to get them anyway, in a sense. So it's like, well, what's the difference? Like, in a sense, I get that. But again, like saying that, hey, we got all your superstars, and now we're going to move on. And then you're going to turn around probably in a few months' time or something else it is. Maybe no one's going to get to that same level as Henry has. But again, maybe they will. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. But again, somebody could get to that level of like Josh Alexander, or somebody like that, or Jordan Grace, or something like that you might be like, oh shit, they've got another person that we kind of want. Damn, well, we just ended that relationship. So anytime that you think you would want to end that relationship, it doesn't benefit them to kind of end that relationship, because it's like, well, at any time they could have somebody or something that we would want. So it's like, well, how can we end that relationship? Then you're kind of just looking at it as a feeder system. And then you're just like going, well, how can we placate them by giving them some garbage that we're not really using, that we kind of wanted, but then we forgot about, or whatever it was. So that's what I mean. We can't be just being like, oh yeah, we accept your garbage and we're going to give you more of our best stuff, but you're not going to give us anything of any meaning or any real half a damn. So great. Thank you so much for, garbage, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, like I say, even so, that is nice. But again, it's like, come on, don't just throw garbage our way and expect us to be so happy that you gave us garbage. Come on, please give us something more to work with, or give them something more to work with. But yeah, guys, you know the drill. You know how it is. I know, but like just having this thought, having this conversation, and having these needs to be kind of met in some ways, like this is a relationship, this is a deal, this is a contract, effectively. You need to honor that in some ways and forms and fashions. Like, if you're not going to do that, like, why are you signing this deal for? Yes, you can sort of showcase Joe Hendry to the NXT audience, and when he comes over in a year or two, whatever, or Jordan Grace or whoever it is, and when they come over, it's like, well, the fans are already kind of like ingratiated themselves to this person in some ways, in some forms, in some fashions. So now it's like, oh, okay, are they going to be on Raw? Are they going to be on SmackDown? Are they, how are they going to fit in now? And whatnot. So it's like, they used to do vignettes back in the day for debuting people. They did that for like the Wyatt Six, I think, kind of. Or they did that for a few people here and there. And then it's like, okay, this person coming on Raw, whatever. You need to do that with somebody, and then like, again, you could have that surprise. Joe Hendry's in the Rumble next year, or whatever it is, as a WWE superstar now. And then he comes along and is on either Raw or SmackDown and is starting to do stuff, and then you're starting to push him into that space of being like, yeah, he's going to be, one of our next superstars, potentially. And that's probably when he's finally going to get more stuff with, like, what he wants in WWE. I don't know if he's going to get the stuff with Cena. I don't know, but, like, that's what I mean. Like, that's the sort of stuff that people want. So, but yeah, guys, you understand that. And I hope you guys have enjoyed this one. And I hope you guys will join me in another one.